fallacies, enigmas, building up the people, tearing down stigmas, clothed with a purpose. When life tries to wear on me, pray and read the word, but I still go to therapy. No matter your past or what you've been through, this is a space, not judgmental. We got some things to get into. I got my mind and on my meds. No matter your past or what you've been through, this is a space, not judgmental. We got some things to get into. I got my mind and on my mental. Mind and my mental. Mind and my mental. Mind and my mental health. Mind and my mental. Mind and my mental. Mind and my mental health.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to Minding My Mental Health. I am Tenitria Williams, your host for today's episode, and I want to say thank you so much for joining me today. All month long, we are talking about money and mental health and our mindsets. So again, I appreciate you guys. You guys know what I want you to do. I want you to hashtag live. Let me know if you're watching live, hashtag live, and let me know where you are watching from. So you would say hashtag live Arkansas or wherever in Arkansas or whatever. I also want you to hashtag replay if you're watching the replay. You'll know you're watching the replay because it won't say live at the top. If you will also tag and share to any groups you are a part of, to anything like that, I'm going to do the same. And so again, I appreciate everybody for joining here. I'm actually going to share this to a couple groups before I get started. Give people a few moments to join us as we are sharing. Again, thank you so much for being a part of this broadcast. If you will share this, tag your friends, tag your families, tag everybody, share it to your page, share it to your stories, all of that good stuff. And again, thank you so much for joining. I'm not going to keep you guys long today, but I do want to continue our topic for this month, which is money and mindset and mental health. Go ahead and put that in the comment, money, mindset, and mental health. We're going to, I think, do some really good work today. And so let's really kind of get into why we're talking about this. We're talking about this because many of you know that this economy is kind of everywhere right now. Inflation is really high, even though the president is saying that we don't have any inflation. That's actually not true. We are seeing the impact of inflation when we go into the store. Something that used to cost $1 is now $2.25, right? So we understand that there is a really high rate of financial stress and strain for a lot of families. There have been a lot of benefits that people have been accustomed to using, and those benefits are decreasing or are maybe no longer available for them. So again, this month we're tackling this subject, money, mindset, and mental health. 2/3 of Americans say that money is a significant source of stress in their life. 2/3, that is a large amount of people that would say money is a big stressor in my life. And in recent surveys, nearly 70% of people said they had financial anxiety. So this topic, we're not just talking about this, and we're not just throwing out numbers. We're talking about this from the perspective of how do we deal with the stress that comes when you don't have the finances that you need or that you desire, and how your life is affected when you don't have the resources to do those things. So again, why does this matter? Research shows that as early as 2024, adults with less than $5,000 in financial assets, that doesn't necessarily just mean cash, but financial assets, were more likely to have depression or anxiety. Not having $5,000 saved up or in financial assets made you more likely, in fact, it was double, but more likely to have depression or anxiety compared to people who had over $100,000. The study also noted that wealth, not just income, the difference is income. There are people who have a high income, but they don't have any wealth, meaning they don't have anything that could help them in the meantime. So they make it, they're spending what they make, or sometimes they're spending more than they're making. So even though they may be making $300,000, they're spending $350,000, if that makes any sense. And so they don't have any wealth, they just have high incomes. So people with wealth tend to have a greater sense of security, right? So money or wealth offers a sense of security that helps to buffer our mental health. In other words, feeling financially sound or stable is deeply tied to being emotionally well. Okay. So feeling financially stable helps with the mindset or with the mental health. Now, we obviously know that there are people with a lot of money who have a lot of mental health concerns. So we're not saying that money is going to take away all those things. We're saying it's not going to be an additional stressor. Okay. So let's start by looking at some mindsets that may impact money. But before we get into that, if you can, I need you to go ahead and share this video with a few more people. Let's get some people in here. I know that school's starting, so a lot of people are busy, but we're going to try to get some people in here because this is so important. Okay, so I just tagged a couple more people and we're going to keep rolling. So let's talk about some mindsets that impact our money. Mindsets that impact our money. Number one, the scarcity mindset. And what is the scarcity mindset? Well, actually, we're going to compare the two mindsets, the scarcity mindset versus the abundant mindset or abundance mindset. The scarcity mindset is when you feel like resources are scarce or limited. And so your brain begins to go into survival mode. For example, if you were hungry and you felt like there was only one piece of bread to eat, well, then scarcity says, oh my gosh, I have to be the one to get that, or that's not going to be enough. Even if we share it, it's not going to be enough. We're not going to make it. And so scarcity kicks your brain into survival mode. What's the problem with that? You guys know we talked a lot about the amygdala earlier in the year, and we talked about how it begins to impact our health when it's overactive. There was research done from Princeton and the University of Warwick that showed that when low-income participants had to think about an expense, their cognitive performance dropped by an equivalent of 13 IQ points. Wow. Think about that. So this was a research study that says that they begin to, when low-income people were asked to think about an expensive car insurance or an expensive car problem or car repair bill, their IQ actually dropped for a while because the stress began to basically take away their capacity to think through other things. Right. It says they lost the same effect as losing a whole night's sleep. This scarcity tax pulled their mental bandwidth away from long-term planning. It also causes more irritability with coworkers, your family. So when you're stressed, you don't want to kiki, you don't want to ha ha. You're thinking about how am I going to make it? And so your body is in active overdrive, right? It's always thinking of how you can survive. So in contrast, an abundance mindset believes that you can create resources, that you can create things you need. It frees up your cognitive capacity to take strategic action. So scarcity mindset limits our ability to think of creative solutions. Abundance mindsets opens us up to have greater capacity to think about solutions or to even receive solutions because God has already given us solutions, right? And so scarcity is believing that there will never be enough. There's only so much to go around. So this leads to fear. This leads to jealousy. This can lead to hoarding behavior because you see one person receiving means that you have less or you have an opportunity for less, which is true. This is fear-based. It can create fear-based spending. If I only have this much money and this is all I'm going to get, I better buy right now. I better buy everything I think I'm going to want or need. And you will buy impulsively if you have a scarcity mentality. Now, some of you may say that sounds counterproductive. The truth of the matter is, I've heard a lot of people say when their parents got paid, maybe on Friday or whatever, they would go out and they would spend, spend, spend. And then by Wednesday, they would notice their parents' mood start to shift. And then by the next, Wednesday, Thursday, they're upset. And then Friday comes and we're happy again. Why? They had a scarcity mindset, which says we're only going to have money on Friday when I get paid. So we got to go out and live our best life right now. And then after that, you just had this cycle of emotional up and downs, right? So that scarcity mindset can be very damaging on your mental health. The abundance mindset says, I believe I can create more. I believe that there is plenty of opportunity. There is plenty of money. There is plenty of resources out there for me. This encourages strategic action, not just optimism. This is not just sitting back saying there's so much and it's just going to flow into my life. This is saying there's so much and there are so many ways for it to come to me. And I'm going to be an active participant in going to get that. You don't fear about somebody else getting something. You don't see that somebody else getting a new job means that you now don't have an opportunity for a new job. You're able to celebrate other people when you have an abundance mindset. So Robert Kiyosaki said in the book, Rich Dad, Poor Dad, he talked about the different mindsets, and he talked about wealthy people or rich people. Their mindset was always, how can I afford it? Where people who struggled with poverty, their mindset was, I can't afford it. The reason that is so vital is because when you say I can't afford something, your creativity, your brain stops looking for the solution. But if you say, how can I afford that? How can I do that? Your brain starts to search the Rolodex of opportunity that says, we could do this, we could do that. How can I do this? And it opens your mind to different possibilities. Let me know if that makes sense. Put a 1 if that makes sense. So the mindset of I can't afford it automatically shuts you down from being open to receive solutions. Where if you say, how can I afford it? You automatically open your mind to look for creative solutions and wisdom that can help you to afford or get the thing that you need. Okay. Instant gratitude. So that was one mindset, the abundance mindset versus the scarcity mindset. Number 2 is instant versus delayed gratification. So what are we talking about? We're talking about mindsets that impact how you interact or how you work with money. And if you notice one, go ahead and just put, I have the abundance mindset, or I have some scarcity mindset there. Why? Because we want to get those things and talk about ways that we can deal with those. And everybody that's joining, welcome, welcome, welcome. Please share, tag, and all of that good stuff. The instant versus delayed gratification says our modern economy encourages instant gratification, right? We live in a society that really doesn't want to wait on most things. And if you think about it, even our generation that remembers when computers and internet became hot and we had to dial up, we didn't mind sitting there waiting for that dial up because we were excited about getting online. But now if our computer takes more than 2 seconds to get us exactly where we want to go, we are almost really frustrated because why is this thing so slow? We have become accustomed to getting things right now. And so sometimes you have to recognize that everything is not going to be instantaneous. And that's why people oftentimes get really frustrated because they don't get the instant gratification when we're talking about being wise and disciplined in your finances. If you don't get this instant turnaround, people will get discouraged and say, I don't want to do that anymore. So we have to release this instant gratification mindset that says, if I invest $2 today, I'm going to have 20,000 tomorrow. That is not always the way this works. It's going to take consistency and discipline. There's also a study that talks about this concept called spendception. And it talks about it's much easier to spend money digitally than it is cash, because with cash, you see the money leaving your hand. Even with a debit card, you are swiping the card, which it makes it seems a little more transactional. But because of the way our society has gone, all you have to do is just kind of hit a button and boom, you've bought $300 worth of Amazon stuff in a matter of moments. You tapped your phone and boom, you just spent $500 on something. And so the way that impacts our mindset is it doesn't feel like we're actually spending the money. And so it makes it actually a lot easier for us to spend impulsively, to spend under compulsion, again, without actually thinking about, hey, is this what I'm supposed to be doing with this money? It says this means the more frictionless our payment methods, the more mindless we spend. Okay, so this impulsive spending habits can create debt cycles, and a lot of people are struggling in debt right now. They are over their head in debt. Debt causes us to have a lot of anxiety, a lot of stress. So you have to begin to train your brain to wait. Again, I am not one that says you can't have nice things, you can't do nice things. I'm saying every time is not always the moment to just spend. We do have to be wise in our spending, right? So trying to have some emotional regulation. So training your brain, hey, I don't have to have this at this moment. I will be fine if I wait until I can get a product or an asset that can pay for the thing that I'm wanting, as opposed to me paying for everything and then struggling in 2 months, right? So it's the instant gratification versus the delayed gratification. That's the second mindset. The third mindset, and I think this one's very interesting. This third mindset is identity and worth. Many people's identity and worth are actually tied to their money. So if they have a lot of money, they feel valuable. And if they're struggling, they no longer feel valuable. The sense of identity can cause you to overspend, underspend. People struggling, this is talking about people specifically with mental health. It says people struggling with bipolar disorder, ADHD, or depression may spend impulsively during manic episodes and ignore bills when they're depressed. Depression alone reduces productivity by 35%, which leads to job loss, compounds financial struggles. But what I see more often is people spending in their role as what they see as their role as provider. So, for example, you may have a grandmother who has a certain amount of money, and she will go out and spend well above what she actually has available for their grandchild for their birthday. Why? Because they so want to be able to do that. They want to be able to say, I spent all this money on my grandchild, and they will overspend because of emotion. Maybe they feel like it's their job or their duty as a grandma to spoil that grandchild, or maybe they know that their child is struggling, and so they're trying to overcompensate. But again, they're putting themselves in a situation where they're going to be out of resources by the end of the week or the end of the month because they overspent in an area. Sometimes self-esteem, influence, and financial choices are all impacted by our money, because you may try to prove your worth by purchasing things you don't need or you don't want. Overspending to look successful is an issue for a lot of people. So you have to ask yourself, am I spending because this is something that I truly desire? Am I spending because this is something I truly need? Or am I spending because I'm trying to impress other people or prove something to someone? There's a show on Netflix that I watched last year. Season 2, I think, is coming out soon. I'm excited about it. But the show was called Forever. And in the show, there was a single mom who was raising her child, and it was time for prom. And the girl, she got a date, blah, 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 all this stuff. Because I don't want to spoil everything. But what the mom did was she was already working 2 jobs and struggling financially, because she was also sending this child to a private school. So she was struggling financially just to send her kid to school. And when it was time for prom, she went out and spent way more for prom than she should have. Not only did she do that with the dress itself, she had a whole big gathering where there was the balloon arches and blah, blah, blah. They had this big celebration for this girl to go to prom. And even the child wasn't asking for that. And we'll see that so many times in communities where people are going, I want you to have this. I want this. And you don't, it kind of goes back to that delayed gratification a little bit. But if we're able to say, hey, now is I can get you a beautiful dress and you're going to be stunning at prom, but it may not be this $2,000 dress, or it may not be this thing, but we can still get something that is excellent and that you would love and doesn't diminish your experience. But again, sometimes what we're doing is feeding into an insecurity, and we feel like spending more will make us feel better about where we are in our situation. So basically, this mom was trying to uphold an image so that she felt better. It wasn't about her child. She wanted to feel good about the way things were going, and because even the child said it's okay. So make sure you don't get caught in this trap of I have to do it because my kids, right? Your kids deserve a financially stable future, even if they don't get to have the I guess the expensive prom dress today. They can still have a nice prom dress without you going into debt or having to struggle in the future. Now, this next one is one I really like to talk about because I think it's really important. It is the growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. The growth mindset versus the fixed mindset. And in the fixed mindset, it assumes that this is what it is. This is the life I've been given. This is how things are set. My family's just broke. This is just the kind of job I can get. This is just the kind of salary that I will be able to obtain. Things are kind of set in that fixed mindset. But the growth mindset is saying, how can I grow? It kind of goes back to what we said initially with that scarcity mindset. Growth mindset is asking, what skills, what things do I have in my life that would allow me to increase my income? Those with a growth mindset are more likely to invest in upscaling their skills, learning new skills that they could use in the future. Those with a growth mindset are always looking for opportunities, even if that means a career change. People with a fixed mindset say, I'm just stuck here and this is where I am. Hey, we always just gonna be broke. That's how it is. Don't nobody ever get out of this neighborhood. That kind of talk comes from a fixed mindset. A fixed mindset believes that this is all I'll ever have. I have limited opportunities, and that's just it. But a growth mindset reframes it and says, what skills can I use that would build my income or increase my income in the next 12 months? Okay. Karen, I'm glad you said that. Wedding dress. She said that's more than I paid for my wedding dress. That's more than we paid for our whole wedding. But the thing is, people will do that with weddings as well. You will see people who will spend thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars on their wedding, and then they're struggling their whole first 2 or 3 years financially. Instead of saying, hey, we'll still be married if we spend $200 or if we spend $20,000, we'll still be married. The license is still going to be good. Why don't we use this money to build our future so that we're not stressed? Because one of the main reasons people have a lot of issues, especially those first couple years, communication and finances, those are huge in relationships. So I'm glad you brought that up. So we're looking at the fixed mindset and the growth mindset. The growth mindset is literally all about, how can I accomplish this? How can I do this? This is not the end. Just because it looks like it's not working out now, I'm not stuck here. The fixed mindset says, I'm stuck here. If I was born in a small town, or I was born to this type of family, I was born in this situation, this is just my lot in life. Where the growth mindset says, I was born here, but I don't have to stay here. I was born into this family, but I can change the trajectory of this family. I was born into this type of situation, but that situation doesn't have to be my end. There's a saying that says, when you're born, you look like your parents. When you die, you look like your choices. And I think that's pretty powerful, because a lot of times what we do is we say, this is what happened. This is what the situation I was born into. And we allow that to become our identity. If your family struggled financially, that becomes your identity. If your family never made it out of, this tax bracket, that becomes your identity. Go ahead and put that in the comments. I don't have to repeat the cycles in my family. You can be the person that breaks the cycles in your family. Okay, so those are different mindsets that you have to look and go, which mindset do I have, and how can I shift that to the mindset that is more powerful? Okay. Now, how does money impact mental health? We know from a professional standpoint, we see it all the time. There are people who say, I really need to go to counseling, but I can't afford it. Surveys show that 54% of Americans feel stressed or anxious about their finances at least 3 times a week. It's only 7 days a week. So almost half of that is you're worried about money, right? Problems with debt and depression, they go hand in hand. When you have people in deep debt, you will notice there's more depression, there is more anxiety. Not only does debt impact the depression, it also prolongs people who are already struggling with mental health issues. So individuals with depression and problem debt are 4 times more likely to still be depressed 18 months later. Those in debt are 3 times more likely to have thoughts of suicide because debt begins to weigh on you physically, emotionally. Debt is heavy. It can be such a heavy weight on you. And so it's important that we say, I have to change my mindset. I have to change my behaviors. And we're going to get into some of those behaviors a little bit later. So stick with me. I have to change my mindset, change my behaviors so that even if I'm struggling with some type of depression or anxiety or something, I don't have to stay stuck there forever. Okay. Financial worries and psychological distress basically shows that the more stressed you are, the more you're going to have more financial problems and vice versa, right? So it says a study shows that the higher financial worries were significantly associated with higher psychological distress. Another study report that high financial stress increase the risk of serious psychological distress. In layman's terms, the more you worry about money, the higher your emotional stress. That's pretty easy, right? The more you worry about your money, the more stressed you're going to be. But in the opposite time, the more, if you are having mental health issues, it's going to affect your ability to go to work. It's going to affect your creativity. It's going to affect your focus at work. It's going to affect your money as well. So you have to take care of your money and your mind. You have to take care of your money and your mind, because if you go to work and your mindset or your mental health isn't strong, it's going to affect your work, which then impacts your money, and it then goes back and impacts your mental health. So it is a vicious cycle. And I have a lot of clients who come in and their number one stress is finances. Why? And they're saying, hey, I can't even hardly focus at work because I'm thinking about, I don't want to be evicted. What are my kids going to eat? People are genuinely struggling out here, and we want to offer real life solutions for that. Okay. Financial stress causes irritability, difficulty concentrating, social withdrawal, physical symptoms like back and stomach pain. Research shows that mental health challenges make it harder to manage your finances. Again, like I said, creating this vicious cycle. So, what I want to talk about, and I've already talked about the digital, how easy it is when we have like the tapping of our phone or just hitting a button and we're paying for things, how we have to pay attention to what we're actually spending. Because again, sometimes you've heard of retail therapy. How many people have heard of retail therapy? What is retail therapy? It's not by a professional, right? It is when someone says, I'm feeling bad, so I'm about to go and spend me some money to help me feel better. That is not always the worst thing in the world, but it can get you in financial trouble if you're not mindful of that. Right. And so retail therapy is saying, I don't feel good about some part of my life, or I feel out of control in one part of my life. So I'm going to go and spend, and then I can have something to look at and say, look what I have. And that gives me a sense of accomplishment. It gives me a sense of value. And then it's not good signs to follow. No, it is not, Karen. It gives you a sense of value, at least for a moment, until that bill starts coming in. Right. So this is really where I want to spend my time. Yes, Everett, a lot of people used to subscribe to retail therapy. A lot of people still subscribe to retail therapy. And I'm telling you, there is nothing wrong with going out to say, hey, I want to look nice. I would like to buy myself a new shirt or a new something, right? I'm not saying you have to be at the bottom and struggling. What I'm saying is you don't want that to be the way you cope with stress in life or life stress. What I want to look at here, and this is where we're going to spend probably most of our time, some solutions and practical ways to deal with this stress and the money thing. So the first thing is actually creating a plan. Now we know that there are all type of financial advisors who are more than willing to take some money from you to help you plan. And some people say, I don't want to do that. They're taking my money. I don't even know if they're rich. I'm not telling you to go out and get a specific financial advisor, but I am telling you to stop and take an inventory of your finances so that you can start to create a financial plan. Because even if you don't have an advisor, which is not a bad thing either, you do need a plan. You need some type of plan. And that is whether you are wealthy or whether you are barely making it, you still need a plan. The National Bankers Association says that people with a financial plan are twice as likely to report no anxiety or depression as those without one. So just having a plan is going to decrease your chance or your likelihood of anxiety and depression. Just having the plan. So tracking your spending, setting goals are also linked to higher life satisfaction and lower emotional distress. Tracking your spending and setting goals are linked to higher life satisfaction. I'm going to say that again because I think it's really important. Tracking your spending and setting goals are linked to higher life satisfaction and lower emotional distress. Financial literacy is protective. Individuals scoring high on the literacy quizzes are more likely to be financially stable. Now, some people go, I can't afford all those classes, but what you can afford is a library. That's free. What you can afford is to look on YouTube. What you can afford is to read books and to read articles on the internet. There is so much information out there that ignorance cannot be a valid reason for us to stay where we are financially. Okay. So even if you say, I don't know who to follow, there's so much advice, pick one. Pick one. I don't know if I like that guy. I don't know. Pick one and begin to, and especially for believers, pray and say, Holy Spirit, show me who to follow. If you are a believer, you should have Holy Spirit saying, show me who to follow. Get a book, read some reviews. And if you, there's a lot, everybody's saying, hey, this really helped me, and it sits right with you, Holy Spirit says, go follow that. But what most of us are doing is just saying, I don't know. And we allow that to be the end of the sentence rather than I don't know, but I'm going to find out. It has to be a comma and not a period. I don't know is not enough. So getting a financial plan by beginning initially, even if you don't have a lot of books and all this stuff, or you haven't read a lot of books, what you can do is say, I'm going to write down where my money is going. Yes, YouTube University is an amazing tool. And you don't have to get the premium subscription. You can still get a lot of very valuable information for free on YouTube University. So looking at where is my money going, most people, honestly, when they at the end of the month, they go, I don't even know. I didn't buy anything major. I didn't go out and make a big purchase. Where did my money go? And some people, honestly, they are really, truly just paying their bills. If that's the case, it still gives you a clarity of, okay, this isn't about poor spending. Maybe I am actually going to have to increase the money that's coming in. Sometimes it's a spending issue. Sometimes there's just not enough issue. And if there's a just not enough issue, I'm going to have to find a way to increase. And we're going to get into that as well. But you have to be aware of what's going on with your money. And I have been guilty of spending and just going, I'll check my account and make sure I have money. That system always causes stress. You have to be wise enough to say, no, I have to say, I'm going to put this much money in my savings account. I'm going to put this much money in investment. I'm going to put this much money with my bills. If they average equal this much, I'm going to have that much for my bills, right? You have to at least start looking where your money is going. The other thing says the other part of these protective factors, and when we're talking protective factors, we're talking about how to protect your mindset and your mental health when it comes to the money. One is the financial planning. Number two, building assets and safety nets. Wealth offers psychological safety. Again, it is not the answer for all things mental health or all things mindset, but it does offer a sense of security that can give you a little more comfort to think about other things. It gives you more capacity. Even small savings buffers can reduce stress. Having what I say, like a life happens fund, can help you tremendously. What is a life happens fund? It is for those things that you know are going to happen eventually. Even you don't want them to necessarily happen, but you know you're going to need new tires. If you don't have a life happens fund or some type of fund set aside for, I'm going to need new tires, that can throw off your whole budget. If you need two new tires, now you're going to spend $200-300 that maybe you did not have. And if you had a life happens fund, goes, hey, of course I need new tires because life happens. I drive my car. I'm going to need new tires. I'm going to need an alignment. Something may happen with my kid is going to need this thing. Because I have a life happens fund, life is going to happen and I'm going to be prepared for that. But again, if you're not prepared, that one thing can literally trickle down and cause so much damage. How many of you have been a person that has lived through the one thing, even though it wasn't even a major thing, major in the sense of like a major medical expense, but one situation caused a ripple effect in your finances. So you had to get new tires, which meant you were behind on another bill, which meant they cut something off. And then they had to get money to get it turned back on. And then you had to pay late fees on top of that. So if you had 2 to 3 per tire, again, you're looking at if you need 2 new tires, now you're talking $600, $400 to $600. But if you had this life happens fund, you go, okay, I'm going to get one tire this week or next week, the next tire, or I can get both tires because I have enough, right? That type of planning can really help you so that life, when it happens, it doesn't throw a huge wrench in your, your plans. Because I know I can hear people saying, I don't have that kind of savings. I don't have it. I get it. And so that's why I want to say practically looking at what is a small amount that you can start to put aside, even if that's $5. So many people diminish small, consistent effort. You diminish. And now this was something I started doing. I don't remember. I may have been in college. I don't remember, but I do know I was a lot younger, but I didn't have a lot for like financial, whatever. Right. And I started saying, I can afford $5 because I knew I could spend $5 and not miss it. And so I started putting back $5 and I didn't think about it very much. And pretty soon you look up and you go, oh, I got $50. Pretty cool. Right. Then it's, oh, I got $100. Okay. I was just putting the $5 back. I was not missing the $5 because that felt doable for me. Thankfully, I didn't have a lot of life happenings at that time. But what that began to do, when you look at it and you go, oh, now I have $200, then that starts growing momentum and you get encouraged to save. You get encouraged if someone gives you a little bit extra, you get a little birthday money or whatever, you are encouraged to put that away so that when life happens, you didn't have to struggle because you already had those. Those are small things. And most people minimize that small amount because they say it'll take forever to get to 10,000. Yes, but it may not take forever to get to 50. And 50 will eventually go to 100 and 100 will eventually go to 200. And so start where you are. That is a huge part when you're talking about financial protections and even your mental health. Start where you are. If you say, I can't afford this therapist, find one that your insurance will cover that you can afford. Find someone or find a book that can help you. Do some things. I give tips on here all the time. Go back and watch some old broadcasts to learn ways that you can handle your mental health in a way that financially helps you, right? Or emotionally helps you. So there are all types of things that you can look into, as well as checking to see what your employers provide, like if they match your some kind of savings with investments for retirement, those types of things. But we're talking about those people who are saying, I am literally living from check to check. I am living check to check, but I still go to Burger King or I still go to so and so. I'm not telling you can't. I'm saying, can you afford to put back $5 instead of getting the 2 burgers? Can you put back $5 and get the 1 burger and so, right? Finding ways to begin to help yourself. That will, just having that small cushion will begin to build your confidence. Yes, never minimize small beginnings. The other thing is we're talking about mindfulness and coping. Um, Finding your ways that you can take care of yourself even if you don't have a lot of finances. So you may be able to say, I can't afford to go get a massage, but what I can do is stretch every night. Maybe you can't go to get the massage, but you can stretch. Maybe you can't go to an expensive gym, but you can walk outside. You can do some body weight exercises. You can do some push-ups or some squats, or you can pull up YouTube. Again, YouTube is our friend. You can go to YouTube and say, what do you need? I want a leg exercises that doesn't require weights, or at home leg exercises with no equipment. Type it in. You're going to get tons of videos. You're going to get tons of resources. And all of these things help our mindset. They help our mental health, even if the finances aren't there, right? Workplace support. Employers play an important role as well. Financial wellness programs and flexible wage access can reduce stress and increase productivity. When employees have access to mental health services and are paid living wages, financial strain and mental health problems decrease. Why is that important? There are a lot of companies that have what they call EAP, which is employee assistance programs. Tons of companies have this. They usually provide their employees with 5 to 7 free. But I say free, you're working for it, but they provide 5 to 7 sessions with the professional that is, connected with them, a licensed professional that's connected to that system or that program. And you're able to go 5 to 7 times. Some are more, some may be a little less. Sometimes it's 3. I have some people that will come and they'll have 3 EAP. They'll use all of those. And if they say, I still need a little bit of help, then they start utilizing their copay. But they were able to get a great deal of work on the front end because they said, what does my employer or what does my job offer me? So again, making sure that you're not just sitting back counting yourself out when you know you need mental health support or mental health help. Why is taking care of your mental health so important? Because it affects your money. Why is taking care of your money so important? Because it affects your mental health. Okay. So now I want to talk about some practical guidance for everybody before we kind of finish up here. Okay, these are some things that will help you. We talked about building assets, meaning building that sense of that safety net, right? Doing things to help your mindset, your mental health. Yes, everybody's over here giving all kinds of tips over here. It says, find a pretty park you like to walk in, or maybe the mall or a shopping center for those rainy days. Do that. YouTube, Google, Chat GPT are your friends. Utilize these resources. Sometimes I will have my clients, I'll say, pull out your phone right now in the session. Put in Chat GPT, this, and this. What does it say? And we explore. Why? Because that's helping them to open their mindset to things that where they were in the fixed mindset. We're going, let's open our mind to a more growth mindset. So those are very good. So first things, if you are struggling, and by struggling, I mean, you're looking around like, where is the next thing going to come from? Here are some things that I want you to do. Number 1, stabilize your essentials. Stabilize your essentials. What do I mean? Make sure, prioritize your basic needs, your food, your shelter, your clothing, transportation if needed. Okay. Stabilize your essentials. If you're struggling, reach out to local services. There may be food banks, food assistance programs, nonprofits. Recognize that using these resources is not a sign of weakness. You do not have to be relying on these resources forever. But you may have, if you are in a place of need, there are people and there are organizations out there that can help you. Don't sit back and allow your mindset to say we're stuck when there are resources available to you. Make sure, because it's one thing to worry about not having the prom dress. It's another thing to worry about not having shelter, right? So you want to make sure that you have those things. And I cannot separate myself from being who I am, and I am a believer. If you are a believer, especially if you are a giver, you need to call in your harvest, right? You need to say, God, I've sown seed. this is not okay for me to be without, but also going saying, what resources do I have? God, show me what resources I have. I need shelter. I need food. God is not going to forget about you. If He didn't forget about the birds of the field that don't work, they don't sow, they don't toil, they don't do any of this thing. They don't have a mindset. If He's taking care of the birds, He will take care of you. So you have to say, God, I need shelter. I need food. I need these things, right? But making sure again that you are also doing your part to stabilize these things. Don't allow these basic needs to go unchecked. So if you have to drop something for something else, make sure your basic needs are met. This other thing kind of goes with what some of the stuff we've talked about, but doing just a simple budget reduces decision fatigue. Now, again, I'm not talking about saying I can't ever buy a drink at the store. I can't ever do this, but just saying this is how I'm going to spend my money. A simple budget. I'm not talking super complex. So allocating, these are things that I know I have to pay. These are those essential needs. I'm going to stabilize, making sure that I have enough to pay my mortgage or my rent. I'm going to make sure that I have enough for gas money to get back and forth to work. I'm going to make sure that we have food, those types of things. And then if there is, okay, do I have, let me put that $5 in savings or $20 or 3,000 or wherever you are in that. Where's my investment money? But you're putting it into categories, right? So it's your buckets. Basically, you have your needs, you have your savings, you have your desires, those types of things. List your fixed costs first, then your discretionary spending. You may have to use, if you are a person that does spend more because you don't see the money, you may need to go back to having cash on hand, or you may need to go back to using your debit card more. The simple act of tracking your spending, as we said before, can reduce anxiety. We said this one earlier. A lot of people call them emergency funds. I like to call them life happens, because a lot of times they're only emergencies because we didn't have the life happens. Does that make sense? But there are certain things, right, that can be emergencies. There are things that happen. But even if that happens, if you have a life happens fund, that can help you. Research shows that having a fund that just is for when things happen can reduce stress and prevent reliance on high energy or high interest loans. If you guys have ever read about or had to, or not had to, but went to like one of those high interest, sharp, predatory lending agencies, they charge you crazy, insane amounts of money so that you can borrow money, right? And so if you have just that cushion and then you're able to not have to avoid that, that can help break some cycles in your life. Number 4, tackle debt strategically. Write down your debt with its balance. You can figure out, what's more important. Sometimes we're so focused on, I got to pay off this debt. And I do think people should pay debts, right? But if it's between paying a credit card and you having your house, make sure you have, that's why we said stabilize your essentials. There are people who are paying so much in unsecured debt, like credit card debt and that kind of stuff, and then they don't have money for their essentials, their house, their food, their housing, their food, their clothing. Do those things first. And if those companies come for you, we'll deal with that later. Right. But if you say, I do have enough for all of those, how do I want to tackle my debt? How do you do that? You can write down your debts with the balances and decide how you want to do it. There are 2 schools of thought, where probably more than that. I'm going to talk about 2. There's the snowball debt, where you do all the small debts first. Why? Because you're building momentum and you're going, hey, this debt is only $250. I'll be able to pay that off very quickly. This debt is only $500. This debt is $2,000, and you're paying those off smaller. You're paying those off. You're paying the minimum balance on the bottom debts, or those larger debts, and you're paying as much as you can on those smaller debts to get them off of your plate. That helps a lot of times too, emotionally, because you are able to physically see, I had 7 things I was paying out, now I only have 5. That can help give you that momentum to keep going. The other school of thought is to look at the interest rate. If you're paying and saying, okay, this has a really high interest rate, I want to pay that one off quicker. So again, you may pay towards the ones with the higher interest rate. Don't be afraid to call a credit card company or a store company or whatever and ask them to adjust your rates. You would be surprised at the the ability that they have to adjust your rate. So if you've been paying on time and you've been doing these things and you are really struggling, you can call and say, "Hey, I've been paying on time, but this is really hard for me right now. Is there any way that you can adjust my interest rate?" And they will actually, not all the time, but there are more times than you probably would realize, they will actually adjust your rate. And the first time they're going to probably say no. Don't give up. You say, "Well, can I talk to a manager? Can I talk to somebody higher than you?" Why? Because people have those are people making those decisions. They have the right, expect favor. They can go in and actually adjust those rates. So if you were paying 17%, they can say, "Well, I can lower it to 14%," which may not seem like a lot to some people, but that can be a huge difference when you're talking about easing the stress of what you're having to pay every month. So these are very practical things that you can do. I didn't even know that was a thing. I took a class one time and they were telling people to go do that. I was like, you can do that. You can just call them and say, I'm having a hard time. Can I get a lower rate? Or, I was like, I didn't know that was a thing. And people were coming back with all types of stories or people lowering their rates. And so you really can communicate with people and get a better system set up for you. Is this helping y'all? Or do you have any questions? Okay. So that's the negotiating lower rates and consolidating through nonprofit credit counseling things may also help if you're in deep debt. Here's one that I love to talk about. This is grow your income. This one it sounds really simple. Grow your income. It sounds simple, but so many people feel like this is the harder one. It's actually more of a mindset than it is the ability to do it. If you are in a stagnant job market, you may have to get a side job, okay, or a side gig, doing something that allows you to have more finances. You might start driving for Uber. Depending on your personal skills, like what skills do I have that would allow me to bring in additional income? Because again, sometimes it's not about what you're spending; it is about what you make, and you simply don't make enough. So grow your income. Okay, ask your employers about professional development or tuition assistance. Be willing to do something new. I share this often, but I think it's really important. When my little brother needed tutoring, and there was a program that we found, and I forgot how much it was, but I do remember it was in the thousands for him to do for the summer. My mom was like, "You know what?" Karen said Uber is her jam, right? My mama said, "I can bake. I'm not even going to bake. I'm just going to make the cookie dough." They made cookie dough and they walked around our neighborhood and sold cookie dough door to door. People, and she made him, which is kind of taking some ownership, go with her. And they walked around and he would say, "Hey, I'm raising money so that I can get this tutoring, this math tutoring that I need, reading or whatever it was. I don't remember. Will you buy cookie dough?" And she went home. She made cookie dough whatever day they had their delivery days, and she was able to pay for what he needed by using the skills that she had. Also, she has done. I remember growing up in our family, if there was something that needed to be done, that like if we had an opportunity, that was typically the thing that would make them sell plates. But if one of us kids had an opportunity to do something, they would say, "Well, okay." They didn't tell us no. They didn't stop the opportunity. Why? That you see the difference in the mindset? Because some people would just tell their kids, "Hey, I can't afford that. It's a great opportunity, but I can't afford it." And some people would say, "How can I afford it? Because I want you to be able to have that opportunity." So they would say, "How can I afford it? What skills do we have?" I come from a family of people that can cook really well. They would say, "We're going to sell plates on this day." They would go to the lumber company. They would tell those people, they put up a few flyers. Those flyers were handwritten flyers. Some of the flyers were some of it was just word of mouth. We had other family members that worked at the lumber mill. Would say, "Tell the men that we're going to be out there with plates at this time." Those men would come out and they would say, "Woo, thank goodness I get me a home cooked meal for however much money they were selling those plates for." That would get the money that we would need for the opportunity. What are we saying? You are not stuck. Put that in the comments. You are not stuck. So if it's selling cookie dough, if it's selling plates, if it's giving a child some tutoring lessons, if it's teaching somebody how to sing, if you can know how to sing, if you know how to dance, you can teach somebody how to dance for a performance, all types of things. You have skills that you're sitting on that you think nobody will pay for. But the truth of the matter is many people would be willing to pay for the skills that you have that you're sitting on that actually would be able to be beneficial for you. Now, in the church circle, we say it like this: what do you have in your house, or what's in your hand? What that comes from a story in the Bible. I'm not going to go into that right now, but I am telling you that there are skills that you have that can help you produce financially. Okay, you are not stuck. Okay, the other thing we talked a little bit about, manage the digital spending. So if you are got a lot of subscriptions out there and you're not using those subscriptions, I need to pay attention to how many of you have ever gotten that little thing from Apple and it says $3, $5, da, da, da. And I don't even know what that is. I legitimately don't have a clue what subscription that's paying for, right? Paying attention to those things. That'll help your brain to not, it'll help your finances because you start to go, oh, okay, I need to just look and see where my money's going. That goes back to tracking your spending. And I'm not telling you need to cancel everything. There are some subscriptions you use that are actually beneficial for you, that you get good skills, good things from. Keep those. If you're using them and you need them, they are helping you, keep those. I'm talking about the stuff where you go, I forgot. I had that app that I haven't used in 2 years, but I've still been paying $7.99 for that. How do you support your mental health? Financial stress, again, often leads to anxiety, depression, or shame. Talk to a therapist, join a support group, utilize, again, learning different skills of how to challenge your thinking, how to shift your mindset. Okay. If you're experiencing something like suicidal thoughts, call a hotline, call the hospital. Don't battle that by yourself. The enemy will lie to you and say it's never going to get better. He will use that fixed mindset talk to get you to feel like you're stuck. You are not stuck. But you are going to have to say, I have to do something different. Even if you say, I haven't struggled with suicidal thoughts, you don't want it to get that bad. You don't want it to get to that place where that is even an option. Okay. Improving your financial literacy, reading books, taking classes. This is another one that I really love to talk about. Building your social and community support. What do I mean? It's harder to fail in a strong community. It's harder to fail with a strong community. Okay. When we talk about if you're struggling financially and we say look for resources, sometimes that may be an organization that'll pay a bill, pay your light bill or your electric bill for you. Sometimes that is finding resources that is not necessarily giving you money, but is helping you so you don't have to spend so much money. So sometimes resources, again, can be finances. Sometimes they're not. So here's an example. If you have 2 children, you work and you have 2 kids and you have to put them in aftercare and each child costs $200 to go to aftercare. You have a trusted neighbor. I'm not talking about a crazy neighbor that you don't trust and that would mistreat or abuse your child or children. You have a trusted neighbor who says, I can watch those kids for a little while. I don't mind. Go, okay. So if Miss Jenkins says she'll watch the kids for me, even if I don't let Miss Jenkins watch the kids for a long period of time, she's a part of my support system. So Miss Jenkins, I can say, okay, Miss Jenkins, can you do this? Let's do this. Just 2 months. So for 2 months, if you'll watch the kids, I'll save what I would have spent in aftercare, which is $200 per kid. That was $400. If Miss Jenkins watches those kids for 2 months, you get to save $800. That helps you have a cushion. You can put the kids back in aftercare after that if you need to, but that is a part of utilizing your support system in a way. Miss Jenkins may not have had the finances to give you $800, but she said, I can use what I have. So many people are discrediting the support that they have because it doesn't look the way they want it to look. Your support may not always look like somebody giving you a big check. It may be Again, someone helping in this area, or someone saying, hey, you need a website for that. You need a way to track your to get more customers. I can help you with your marketing. You don't have to pay me but half of what you would pay somebody else. These are yeah, don't let the crazy neighbors have your kids. But these are just examples. It could be an aunt, it could be a cousin, or someone that you know and trust, that could help you do these things. What we do is we're trying to live a very individualistic life, when in reality we were not designed or created to live a life alone. There are people, I'm a part of a mentoring group called Inner Circle. And we always say it, what you need is in the group. So many times we're trying to figure out everything by ourselves instead of saying, hey, there may be somebody around me that knows what I need, that could give me the solution that would help me tremendously. Don't be afraid to say, I'm struggling financially. I need help. Don't be afraid. And I'm not talking about always looking for somebody to give you money. We're talking about what are the resources that may be able to help. Can you help me with my resume so that I can apply for different jobs? Can you look over my resume and tell me what I could change? That is helping you. That is assistance, right? Okay. So money is a tool. It's not your identity. Financial stress is real. And the research shows that financial stress impacts our brain, our bodies, and our relationships. But the same research also shows that taking small steps to building a cushion, tracking your spending, and investing in skills can protect your mental health and create momentum towards stability. So, what are we saying? Yes, money can have a huge impact on your mental health, but also your mental health can be protected by you making some smart choices, like building that cushion that we talked about, even if it's starting with the $5 a month or a week. Um, Finding ways that you're tracking your spending so it's not mindless spending. Um, Shifting your mindset can be your superpower or your advantage. Remember that your mental and your financial health are connected. Nurture both. Nurture both. So this is what I want you to do. If you're still with me, I appreciate you hanging on with me. Here's what I want you to do. Here's your call to action. I want you to track your spending this week. See where your money is going. Okay? Find a way, if you don't have a savings or if you don't have any type of cushion fund, find a way to say, how much money can I start to put away each week? Even if that's $3, every week I'm going to put away $3. Build your consistency muscle. Build your consistency muscle. When I first started working out, I would say, I'm going to go to the gym, even if it's not the best workout, to build my consistency. So there were times I'd go, just getting here was the win. I had a workout, but it may not have been the best workout, but getting here was the win. The consistency was important. Why? Because the more I'm consistent, the next time I go, okay, next I did that. Why wasn't that the best workout? Well, I didn't eat right. Okay. That's something that I can do. I can eat more or less or different before I go in. I'm building that consistency muscle. Yes, that's good. Shantae says she's keeping track of hers by keeping receipts. Keeping receipts helps you to look back over everything and go, oh, that's where my money's spent. That's not to beat you up or to condemn you. That's just so you can know what you're spending. And then you can make adjustments if you need to. Okay. So I want you to track your spending, begin to set aside small amounts of money for every week, and know you're not alone. I want you to find one. Go back. Crystal gave a lot of books last week that she read. I think I mentioned, what did I mention today? Rich Dad, Poor Dad was one. The Secrets of a Millionaire Mindset was another one. But there are all types of actually very practical books about how you can, begin to build your income. Find a book and begin to read. Okay. You're not alone. So I want you to track your spending and begin to set an amount that you're going to put aside every week to build up your cushion account. Who's in that with me? If you will track your spending this week and decide how much you're going to put aside every week to build your cushion account, let me know that you're in. Put a 1 if you're going to track your spending and begin to put aside money for your cushion account if you don't have one, or your life happens account. I know y'all are a little bit behind, so I'm going to wait because I'm hoping to see some ones in this comment. All right, there we go. So again, tracking your spending, say I can do $10, I can do $5, whatever, and I'm going to put it aside in my cushion account, and I'm going to watch that grow and watch myself have less stress in that area. All right. I appreciate you guys. Next week, I have Miss Sabrina Fisher. She is the author of the book. I think it's From Broken to Banked. I think that's the name of it. You don't want to miss that. All month, we're talking about money and mindset. She's going to come with, again, even more practical steps and tips and mindset shifts that can help you with your money. We are going to be strong mentally, but we're also going to have our finances in order so that they don't keep hitting each other upside the head and causing us stress and strain, right? I appreciate you guys. You guys already know next Thursday I will be right back here, same time. Share the broadcast. Even if we're at the end, go ahead and share it. If you know of someone who is needing some therapy or some counseling or coaching, let me know. You can reach me at my email, which is tanitria@gmail.com. You can also reach me on my phone number, 470-410-9790. I'm going to say that again, 470-410-9790. And if you say that mindset piece is really important and I didn't realize how important it was, maybe I need to have something that reminds me every day about mindset shifts. Go ahead and subscribe to Celebrating You, which is a subscription-based affirmation program that I have. It is only $1.99 a month. Every day you will receive a affirmation to help get your mindset in the right place to start your day. So if you want to do that, that link is on the page. Again, it's very easy. If you say, I can't get it fast enough off the page, shoot me a message and I will gladly send you that link so you can sign up to start getting those daily affirmations, because they really are. They are a good way to set your intentions and your mindset for today. So thank you so much for joining Minding My Mental Health. I will see you guys back here next week, and I hope you have a great week. Next week, I want to hear your stories. I want to hear how your tracking went, and I want to hear how much money you decided to set aside each week. So I want to hear all those stories. Don't let me down. I'll see you back next week. Bye-bye.
Breaking misconceptions, fallacies, enigmas, building up the people, tearing down stigmas, clothed with a purpose when life tries to wear on me. Pray and read the word, but I still go to therapy. No matter your past or what you've been through, this is a space, not judgmental. We got some things to get into. I got my mind in on my meds. No matter your past or what you've been through, this is a space, not judgmental. We got some things to get into. I got my mind in on my mental. Mind in my mental. Mind in my mental. Mind in my mental health. Mind in my mental. Mind in my mental. Mind in my mental.